So you were, Mark, you were appointed after being undersheriff for more than a decade. Appointed and then elected in your own right. In what year was that?
Be 2019.
In 2019.
2019 I was appointed, and 2020 it was my election.
Oh, all right.
So I'm sorry, it was 2020. It was February of 2020 I was appointed, and then the election was held November of 2020.
So effectively you've been sheriff for all of 2021, 22, half of 23.
Yep.
Okay. So you've had your whole career here.
Yes.
Starting as a deputy, how did that, tell me about that.
So I started in corrections as a corrections deputy, actually part-time at the start, and then I was hired in full-time as correction officer. Worked as a correction officer for probably 2.5 years full-time. At the same time I was putting myself through school, working nights, going to school in the day and night to finish my associate's degree, so I was eligible to go to the police academy.
Okay.
And then I took a leave of absence and paid myself to go to the police academy in Kalamazoo Valley. Once I completed the police academy, I came back to corrections, and then I believe it was maybe 2 or 3 road patrol positions past me, and then I finally had an opportunity, the 3rd opening. And ever since then, became a deputy, worked all the Fabius Township, worked in Centerville, the village, because we had contracts back then. Went from there to Road Patrol General County, and I became a sergeant in roughly 2000. Prior to being a sergeant, I worked the drug team. We had what was called SCAN back then. Worked that for a couple of years and ran day-to-day operations with that. Then got promoted to sergeant. Worked sergeant for quite a while until I was up until 2007, 2008. And then I became undersheriff then.
And then sheriff.
And then sheriff.
The pinnacle of your law enforcement career, probably in anybody's law enforcement career, doesn't get much higher than that.
Correct.
So were you proud of yourself for having been elected?
I was. Proud of the people, proud of myself. Worked hard for it.
Let's talk about what your proudest accomplishments are and have been as sheriff and undersheriff.
Oh, if we go back to undersheriff, there's a lot more, but I was kind of just looking back the other day. My biggest thing is really the training center that we created, and it was opened in January of this year. I think that down the road when I'm gone, I think that that's gonna be utilized a lot throughout the whole county. A lot of guys are gonna be able to afford training. The smaller departments, the larger departments, utilize it.
And you were the driving force in that?
Driving force on it. The commissioners helped a lot as far as giving us the funds to do it. County Administrator Teresa Doreen, she was very positive and helped out a lot with that. Promoted the thought, and between all of us, we made it come to fruition.
So you would describe your tenure as successful here?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah?
I do.
You've got a good crew working for you, good staff?
Excellent staff. I put them up against anybody.
How's crime here? Is crime any better or worse or neutral?
You know, St. Joe County, we're fortunate. We do have crime just like every other area the size of this. Crime, it come and goes. I mean, the majority of it's going to be drug related that then stems from drugs to other like B&Es and assaults and things like that. But as far as crime itself, I think that it's maintained. It's regular from even the time when I was a deputy. I remember giving reports of Fabius Township. Looking back at those years, the only thing different is not so many misdemeanors, but a ton of felonies. Obviously, they're committing more felonies now than they did back when I first started.
A lot of it fueled by drug use, drug trade.
I believe so, yeah. I think addiction and drug trade.
So that brings us to sort of what was, I have to imagine, was one of the worst days of your life, if not the worst. And it was you were off duty on a Saturday, February 25th. What do you remember about that night?
That night I remember going to jail. That's about it. I don't remember.
When did you leave your house?
Oh, so for the whole day, I mean, I got home from a secondary job at like 4 in the morning. I slept a few hours, and then I took my son to Wing Stadium to watch wrestling. Met some friends there. left there, came back home, stayed at home for a little bit. I took a nap, and then went back up towards Kalamazoo to meet some other friends.
Okay, and you met him?
Yep.
At a bar?
Yep. And unfortunately, the rest has all been publicized here.
Yeah, it has been. So, after a long, very successful career here, that was sort of an epic fail, wouldn't you say?
Beyond, yeah, absolutely.
It's a mistake that many people have made. Although I don't hear too many sheriffs, and it has happened with other sheriffs, of course, but in your position, it's more unusual. How are you feeling about that months down the road? How are you feeling about that night and about what happened?
I'm always sorry that happened. I mean, I let a lot of people down. As far as, I let my deputies down, I let the voters down, I let my family down.
Yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that isn't you. That's not your history.
No.
You have no criminal record.
However, you know, I look at the positive, and things are meant for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that I was spiraling, you know, and I believe that I think it probably saved my life.
You were spiraling because of some personal things, family issues that you were dealing with while trying to work two jobs. And that kind of came to a head that night.
Two demanding jobs, yep. And it came to a head, and I did it for quite a few years, you know, and it's not uncommon. Most people here work two jobs or whatever. There's a lot of part-time jobs that deputies moonlight. They do different things. So it's not uncommon for us to do that. So,
have you seen any of the video of your arrest or any of that?
Just on Channel 3. I try to avoid it. You know, try to just stay positive, and it brings back the memory of that night. And I really want to move forward with it, and try to think positive and make sure that, obviously, I hope that some people can use this as a learning curve. That, you know, it can happen to anybody, and at the end of the day, just don't do it. Bottom line, just don't do it. And it'll ruin people's lives. It ruined mine.
Did it?
Early on, it did. But then again, I sought out help and know that I wasn't going to give up. And so today, I have a wonderful outlook as far as my kids. They appreciate it.
The changes you made in you.
Yes. Yep. Friends stuck by me. You know, they didn't judge me. Sorry.
No, you're doing fine. Nobody wants to be judged by their worst day. That's just one small part of your history, right?
Yeah.
But it did change your life. And
it did.
Right after your arrest, you went from what many people do, and you should know in law enforcement, lying, I wasn't driving, to taking responsibility for it the next day.
Well, I think you could see that that's not me. And it's embarrassing to see it on TV, but you know, I made a horrible mistake, and that's not me. So I don't even remember saying any of that, to be honest with you. And so I mean, I said it because you can see that I said it, but I don't know what drove me to do it. I don't know, you know, obviously I was intoxicated, and it's proven that I was, and I don't remember even saying none of that.
Has it changed the way you view other drunk driving suspects or arrests? You've been in the driver's seat of that for 30 years.
Yep.
And here you are, not in the back seat, but in the passenger seat with handcuffed.
Yeah. I think anybody that I've arrested, I think I've always treated them fair and from start to finish. I've always felt that way, that, you know, anybody, it could be any one of us, it could be anybody right at the time of day. And so I've always had my career always think like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Kalamazoo County Sheriff's deputies, they were extremely, I couldn't say anything more proud. They were very professional. The supervisor on that night was just made me feel comfortable, even though that I didn't want to feel comfortable. He and she, there was the whole staff. And I know that just by the way that they treated me, I know that they treat people, all the people that way. So, right. I mean, kudos to them, and I just appreciated it.
Before we move on from that night, do you view yourself as very lucky? Because at 100 miles an hour and 3 times the legal limit and hitting another car that rolled, you could have died, they could have died.
Worst case
disaster.
Scenario, worst case if somebody else got hurt, yeah. Yeah, I can't even answer. I mean, I'm a firm believer that my higher power, which is God,
kept you here.
Yep.
Kept them here.
Yep.
So you did what after you got out of jail?
Well, my sister came and picked me up, and went home, and I showered, and then I ended up going back to work. And got home and realized that I need to get some professional help.
For alcoholism?
At the time, I felt that I was spiraling. I was drinking a lot, and I needed to, for alcoholism, for just everything that was going on in my life. I was tired of holding it in, trying to keep it secret, making everything perfect, and I just needed help. So I seen an ad on the TV, and I said, I'm going to call it. And I did. And they wouldn't accept me at the start, so then I told them that I drank every day, and because I needed treatment outside of this area.
Were you drinking every day?
I wasn't drinking every day, no. But when I did drink, I made up for the days I didn't.
Too much?
Yeah, I drank way too much.
While you were working?
Not when I was working. When I had my days off is when I'd drink.
Yeah. So nobody forced you into rehab, and you weren't court ordered. You did this of your own volition.
I did it on my own. And then prior to going, I contacted my attorney. I asked him if he would take my case, and Mike Hills was very, very helpful, very, very gracious on doing everything he did for me. I called him. He took it. He said, "Go get help," and come back.
And how was that help? How was that experience?
You know, it was good because I didn't know anybody there, so I was able to self-report honestly, and I didn't care what people thought. You know, it was just there. It was definitely different because I got to see and be with people that are detoxing, that are from heroin, methamphetamines, alcoholism. So, I mean, that was different, but they didn't know what I did until, you know, once they get out of detox, people then knew what I did for a living, because you have to go in group sessions and things like that.
Yeah. And
so I'm rooming with a guy that just got out of Texas prison for, I don't even remember what he was there for, but it was a little awkward. But you know, at the end of the day,
sounds a little humbling.
We were very close, and we still keep in contact.
You really?
I still keep in contact with probably 15 of those people down there.
Really?
Yes.
So that worked for you?
It did.
You're not drinking?
I haven't had a drop since, and I don't even have the urge to.
And you don't intend to?
No, not at all.
Well, that's good. Now, there are many people, you mentioned your attorney Hill, there are many people in addition to him who think you should continue to be the sheriff of St. Joseph County. There are others who think, why are you still here? What would you say to the folks who think you don't deserve this job anymore?
Well, I think that everybody has their own opinion, and some people can get over and forgive, some people can't, and they hold it differently. But don't throw stones, you know, in a glass house, especially your own glass house. And I think that I've worked hard for this. I screwed up one time. I deserve what I've gotten, and I took ownership, responsibility of that. And anybody else that got an OWI first offense, I think I've gotten exactly what they offered.
That was a year of probation?
Year of probation, fines and costs,
Yeah.
Drug testing. I drug test once a week,
Yeah.
randomly. But as far as, everybody has their own opinion. If they knew me and know what I've done to try to ensure the public that this isn't going to happen again. It's not gonna.
Okay.
And the other thing is, you know, I know I've listened to these commissioners and Ken Malone, the chair, saying that I talked to him in March. No, I didn't. I talked to him before I left. Did I say I was going to resign? Absolutely, I did. But that was prior to going to treatment, prior to talking to legal counsel, prior to talking to different people. And the reason why I'm still here is I do think I can still make a difference. I've only been out of office for 4 months. I said, you know, most of our deputies for FMLA or anything like that, they get 6 months, okay? And then with the sheriff's discretion, you get up to a year.
You've been out for 4 months, but working from home?
I work remotely. One of the things is my undersheriff and I told him that I am going to be retiring soon. I have some personal effects that need to be wrapped up prior to doing so. And in order to get those personal effects done, I'm working as hard and fast as I can. Mm-hmm. I'm delayed by different things.
Yeah.
However, it's going to be done soon. And the other thing is, I've always said to my undersheriff, I'm going to give you as much room and responsibility as you're able to take. And like he said, you know, I want to give me all the responsibilities, and we did. I let him do anything that he needed to do. We talked, we communicated a ton. So, and if he needed help with something, I'm there.
You were always there. But there was a recent situation where
Mm-hmm.
I think people were expecting to see you.
Absolutely.
About a week ago,
Yep.
and you weren't there, but
Nope.
You weren't there by design. It wasn't because you were blowing that off.
No, I was notified. I was sitting in church. I got the phone call. I went outside. My undersheriff called me. He indicated there was a double homicide, and then we were involved in an officer shooting and killed the suspect.
Did you think, I got to get out there?
Yeah, that's your normal
I would
routine.
think, after 30
Anytime
years.
I've done that, yeah. And I asked him, what are you doing? What you know, tell me play by play what's going on. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. What do you need from me? Do you need anything from me? And his response was, no, everything is taken care of. What else can I do? I mean, the thing is that I'm not going to be there every day. I know that I'm on my way out, and as long as I know that it's being done great and taken care of, like I was if I was doing it, isn't that what you're supposed to do when you're going to retire? Aren't you supposed to train the other guy the way that you wanted to be trained and walk out and know that the place is in good hands?
I imagine, yeah.
And that's kind of what we had talked about, and that's what our plan was.
And he'll run for your job.
He is running for my job, yes.
So the county commission the other day, now they wrote you a letter.
Sure
They
did.
wanted to hear from you. What did they ask you to do?
So the letter actually stated that they stated the statute in regards to what a board can do for an elected official and have them come to the meeting and they can pick whatever topic. They did that, and if I failed to come to the meeting and present, then basically they were going to write a complaint for the governor, or they said that they may write a complaint to the governor based on neglect of duty and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So you hadn't been in front of the Board of Commissioners since your arrest. You hadn't appeared before them physically.
Correct.
All right.
I've talked to them.
Okay.
I've talked to them on the phone.
Okay.
Some of them.
Yeah. And then you did show up, and you did update them on the department.
I did, and they didn't. Apparently, it wasn't good enough. I think one commissioner even said that it was old news or something. To me, and I didn't do anything about leadership. Well, to me, leadership means that the place is running smooth. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the whole point of the office of the sheriff. Mm-hmm. It is to make sure that the offices ran with dignity, respect, and courtesy to the public.
Right.
And my deputies, they are that times 10. I will put them up against anybody. They're great. They're great employees. So So I took offense to that a little bit, but I have big shoulders and thick skin, so it doesn't even bother me what he said, because I was trying to explain the fact that it's running smooth. There's no complaints. If they have complaints, news to me. They have complaints about me, but who's complaining? This is a political ordeal, and we have 4 or 5 different people running for sheriff. You know, they're going to do whatever they can to throw stones at me, because that'll affect Jason, you know, my undersheriff. So this isn't my first day at that kind of stuff. And
you didn't stay for any Q&A by design?
There's no Q&A even on that sheet. It said give a report, and that's what I did.
Okay.
And after the report, I said that concludes my report, and I left. And if they wanted to do Q&A, write Q&A on there. And why did you want to do Q&A in front of a board meeting? If you want to talk to me, why wouldn't you go into closed session? Why wouldn't you go somewhere else?
Pick up the
because
phone.
And I'll tell you this, it was all set aside. It was all set up. They can say whatever they want, but an individual such as Ken Malone, who was the chair, he's liked stuff on social media where they're bashing me. So if to go in there with a non-biased approach, I've already know what his side is. So he doesn't know anything what's going on in my life, or anything what's going on behind the scenes. My guys do. There's several guys here that I've talked to on the phone. They're asking advice. I've given advice. So yeah.
Have you lost a single employee because of this?
To my knowledge, no. You know, we do exit interviews, and the exit interviews, no.
So they are going to write a letter to the governor.
Sure.
And they are going to ask, except for one, they're going to ask that she remove you. Does that make you feel bad? Are you indifferent?
You know, I'm gonna continue doing what I'm doing here. I'm gonna continue to serve the public the best that I can do. You know, it's frustrating because I've been here a long time, and they think that, you know, that he's getting paid $105,000. He ain't here. How do they know I'm not here? How do they know that I'm not making contact? How do they know I'm not working remotely? There's a lot of elected officials that work remotely. There's a lot of elected officials that aren't at their post every single day. You know, there's a lot of elected officials that delegate different things to different employees if they're able to do it. And really, the office of the sheriff, all you have to do is open the doors. All you have to do is January 1st.
That's sort of an antiquated law, but in the 1800s, their job was as constable to open the jail, close the jail. So, but you do far more than that.
Absolutely.
But people may not realize there isn't a work requirement when you're an elected official, when you're the sheriff in Michigan. You have to work very few hours a year to maintain. And you, how would you say you've treated the schedule? Before your arrest, were you here 40 hours a week?
Absolutely.
Since your arrest, have you been working that many hours?
Before I go, I mean, it goes week by week. Some weeks you might be 40, some weeks you might be, or some weeks you might be 60, some weeks you might be 25, 30. Okay. I mean, it comes and goes with what's going on. Sure. You know, you might work a weekend where you have something going on, so you'll take maybe Thursday and Wednesday off. You know, it just depends on, you know, sleep patterns and things like that.
If anybody says you're blowing the job off, they're wrong?
I believe they're wrong. I still know what's going on. I still work remotely. I still talk to my undersheriff just about every day, whether it's updating or I'm asking him or he's telling me things. You know, I'm not going to be here much longer, you know, and I'm not going to give a specific date, but I'm not going to be here because I am retiring. It's not a secret.
Well, you could have retired years ago.
I could have.
With full pension.
Correct. And I plan on doing so, but there's a personal thing that I have to wrap up first. Just like we have a lot of infrastructure stuff that before that, we worked a lot of stuff up into my arrest that we are finishing up some things, you know. I mean, one would be the training center. In January, we just now got that up and running with the new floor, the new tables and chairs and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot of projects that were pending prior to this, my screw up, you know, so I want to finish those up and make sure that they're going the right direction. We have Lexapool, you know, that we have for policies and procedures. There's a lot of work to that. The undersheriff and the captain have been working, both captains, the jail captain and the road captain and the undersheriff, they've worked a lot of time doing that and setting the templates and doing things. You know, so those are the things I want to see through body cams. You know, we have body cams in the jail, body cams on the road. You know, those are things that I want to see put in place.
Well, are they yet? Or
they're purchased and things like that. The servers and things like that we're working on.
You want to see that process?
I would love to see that. Okay. Yeah.
How long do you think you'll be here, if you had to guess? You won't serve out your term, which would end in 24.
I'll be done before this year's up.
You will.
Yeah.
And you have another full-time job.
Correct.
Okay, and you've had that job, and that's allowed.
Yeah, it's allowed. I mean, I had an opportunity prior to going that they asked me if I'd be interested, and I said I was, but I was thinking it would be more towards the end of the year, and knowing what I wasn't gonna be in my personal issues right now when I left, and then when I came back, it came to fruition. And therefore it extended. I already had my retirement papers for June 30th. I already had it done. I had to actually call MERS back to cancel that because I didn't have the right forms under my circumstance. Now, personally, I had to file different forms with it. So I had to reapply, you know, and that's what this is. They just got this. Right here is my MERS.
Your retirement application was received.
Yep. And so, you know, that right there is proof that I'm doing what I said I'm doing, and as long as I mean, I don't really have anything else to say on that.
Well, here you go. I guess what's the moral of the story, Mark? Like, what do you want people to take away from this interview when they look at you and think, well, he served the county 30 years. But boy, did he screw up big time. Mm-hmm. Are you asking for forgiveness?
I would hope that I am asking for forgiveness. I screwed up. I believe in second chances. I've given a lot of second chances throughout my career when I'm a boss, hiring, firing, discipline. You know, I have deputies in here that I've always gave second chances to, and you know, I'm not hiding anything. I took it by the horn, and you know, the prosecutor charged me. I pled straight up what he charged me. I'm not trying to hide. I seek counseling. I do AA. Go to church. You know, if anything, that's helped me even more with my spirituality. You know, I think that putting God number one, making sure my kids are following suit like that.
It can't ask much more.
I would hope that if they do forgive me, that's great. But if they don't, I understand.
You forgave yourself?
I did, absolutely. Amends, I heard one of the commissioners say something about amends. I've made amends the day I came back. I made amends a day or two after this happened. I put myself through therapy. You're not in amends if you're not going to go and try to help yourself. Mm-hmm. Isn't that the whole thing of amends, is to change behavior and help yourself and make sure that everything's fine? Mm-hmm. You know, I'm satisfied. I'm happy with myself, and I'm very happy with the changes that I've made. I'm a better person today. I know it.
More empathy? Happier. Do you have more empathy, do you think?
I'm happier, absolutely.
Now, having been on that side of things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Crimes don't happen in a vacuum. Everybody who commits a crime has a backstory.
Yep.
Right? And that's not an excuse, but it does serve as an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you have been there,
mm-hmm.
does that make you think more how you could respond to the public in a more compassionate way?
It's very humbling. It's very humbling. I think that, yeah, absolutely. I think I look at all different types of why things happen. I mean, I think a little bit more now than what I used to.
Yeah.
I just think that being fair, firm, and consistent, that still holds true. You know, that was my motto back when I would initiated discipline as a sergeant. You know, sergeant's a hard job. You got to play both sides, management and employees, and you always had to be fair, firm, and consistent. And I think that still holds true to this day. I think that, you know, you just got to be true to yourself. You got to be true to yourself. You got to be fair, firm, and consistent with what your goals in life are, and remember, put God number one.
you said in the car when you were arrested that these kind of screw-ups make you realize who your friends are, and that's been evident to you from the beginning, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I know it's hard to talk about. But.
Yep. Good friends, though.
Yeah. Well, you fell, but you got back up, didn't you?
Working every day to get back up. But going back to that, you know, you do know who your real friends are, and as you do know that, it's humbling to talk with them and things. It makes you just happy that you do have those friends. You appreciate them.